Good morning. Welcome to the Hardcore Mortgage Real Estate Business Show, brought to you by Capital Mortgage Funding. I'm your host, Harvey Freed, alongside of me, the boss, Harry Glanz.
What's up, everybody? Good morning, Detroit, and good morning, Renee. How are you today?
I'm great, thanks.
Wow, special
Excited
guest.
to be here.
Renee Lasiacho. It's unbelievable to have you in the studio. People that are in-depth in real estate, we love having you on. Thanks for joining us. And again, we got 1 hour. We'll take your calls at 248-539-9797. Becky Alley and John Kolb are on the Zoomcast. And they're also plugged in here. If you got any questions about mortgages or real estate, Renee's here to answer them, and then we'll fill in the blanks for you. But thanks for coming in, Renee. There's so much going on. Becky brought it up last week. Mortgages, real estate, this is not seasonal like it was, way back when we first started. This is now a 365. If you want to buy a house, now's an open window between now and the holidays. And we're going to talk to you, Renee. Is it any slower now? Or, we don't see that.
It isn't. Historically, this is the time of year when things do typically slow down. People are usually thinking holidays over houses. But with the way inventory levels have been this year and the pent-up demand, we have not seen the seasonal change that we normally do, and I don't anticipate it.
Yeah, Renee, you could sell how many houses right now? You have so many buyers. There's just such a lack of inventory. We talk about it every week. We talked about it since 2012. This has been a seller's market right now. Just give me a ballpark number. How many houses could you sell right now if they were on the market?
Easily another dozen. And the biggest difficulty we have right now as agents is finding homes for our clients. We have probably more of the conversations that we are dealing with are between agent to agent asking for, do you have something coming? What else do you have? Do we know if something that, a seller is anticipating selling, which typically would come on in February or March, and we're looking for it right now. The biggest difficulty we're seeing is that most people are aware of the shortages in inventory, and they're saying, well, I don't want to list my house until I know I can find something. So we have sort of this bottleneck of inventory that could come to the market and give us a flux, but they're concerned about, if I sell, where do I go? And that's really the biggest challenge right now.
We'll bring John Kolb right into the conversation. Good morning, John. I think you're up north at the cottage up there.
Yep. Hey, guys. How you doing? Happy Saturday. It's a nice, cloudy, snowy day up here. So, but yeah, Renee brings up a great point. Not a lot of inventory on the market right now. But we talk about this every week, right, Harv? And Becky and Harry and myself, we talk about how we got to get the philosophy for sellers to get out there, put their house on the market, and kind of do a reverse contingency where they don't close on the sale of their home until they found a new one. And hopefully that will open up the market and put a little bit more homes on the market so that we can get more buyers into contract, have some sellers out there that are willing. And, of course, we're going to have some fall through if people don't find the house of their dreams. But at least it's getting things opened up in a way of doing things so that we can open up the inventory.
Yeah, Renee, what are you seeing in the market right now that you're doing to kind of entice people and to motivate people to either, sell their homes a little bit quicker or even get into the buyer's market?
And that is one of the biggest struggles. It's always lining up the stars, as I call it. So what we have to do is, one of the suggestions that John made is absolutely true. If you can kick back or push off your closing in order to give you more time and flexibility in finding something, that's certainly one potential possibility. The other is we're doing a lot of rent back where people can close, because a lot of times sellers don't want to purchase, or they can't financially purchase without having the equity out of their home in order to do so. So if you don't qualify for both, obviously that goes back to what we said before. You don't have that property on market. So we have worked out on more than one occasion very successfully having a closing and a rent back, giving the seller the opportunity to stay in the home maybe for 30 or 60 or even 90 days. That then allows that purchaser who maybe hasn't listed their home yet the comfort of having a little bit of time and flexibility to sell theirs without having a double mortgage. So I've done it. My team and I have been very successful in lining that up, and it's one way to sort of temper the concerns that people have both on buying and selling.
Boy, nothing like finding that seller out there who's definitely moving out of state, and they're ready to put their house on the market, and you can get that sold right away from them. Hey, we've got some callers lining up. If you want to join the show, 248-539-9797. David, you're calling in from Farmington. Go ahead with your question. Good morning.
Yeah, good morning. So I'm in a fairly large home in Farmington, a little over 3,000 square foot, and it's a multi-level home on the main, and we're a 3-generational household, and we certainly when the eldest person passes, we'll be in a situation financially that will really can't handle our mortgage. So we're going to have to put the house on the market and sell it ASAP. So my question is, I just recently refinanced, got great rates and all this, but the appraisal that came in on the house was a little below that the website that we're all familiar with that does real estate.
You can say Zillow. You can say Zillow on the air.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
sure, you can say that.
Yeah, right as Willow.
Right, we know that. We're very familiar with it.
Yeah. So my thought process, because we had put in quite a lot of money in sweat equity in upgrading the house and turning a master bedroom that's on the main floor and a sizable bathroom that is now barrier-free, 12 by 10 bathroom, with shower wands, handrails, ADA toilets, and very, very senior and limited person friendly. How much above market can I demand? Can I demand, $15,000, $20,000 above and beyond what appraisals come in at?
Yeah, I'm going to let Renee answer this question because I'm sure she has an opinion on Zillow values, especially when she goes to list a house, and then also dollar for dollar what you can get out, what you're not going to get out. So, Renee, you have a ton of experience in this.
So, yes, first and foremost, this is one of my favorite sayings that I saw somewhere, so I'm stealing it. But Zillow is to realtors what WebMD is to doctors.
Okay.
So
I get it.
It is a resource. There's no question about it. But you have to be very careful because the values that you see on Zillow are not considered. They really don't do a deep dive into the area homes the way that an agent or an appraiser is going to do that.
Right.
So that's number one. As far as the value, the best way to really figure out what your current value is for the current market we're in is to have an expert in your area. Each location really is different. And if you have someone who really understands the Farmington area, where you are, they can really give you the knowledge and insight because they've seen the homes, they've sold the homes, their office maybe has seen the homes, and the network that they have there is going to be able to provide you the resource with the numbers. As far as the value of and return on investment that you've made in your home, typically kitchens and bathrooms, give you in a standard market will give you 110% return on your money. Those are typically things people don't want to do themselves. They're cumbersome, they're expensive, and it's difficult to complete. You can also painting is a very inexpensive way to freshen a home, but you have to be careful and mindful that if you over-invest in your home, it is not always going to give you the return. So I tell people start with an appraised value. Start with an agent giving you an evaluation of what the area homes are worth so that you know that you don't exceed the market value when you invest $20,000 or $30,000 or $50,000 in the home. Do that first, and then you'll have an accurate budget to maintain the value within where you're at.
And Dave, it's also important to have somebody like Renee take a look at what the market, what your area is commanding right now. Not all areas are as hot as other areas. So you really need an expert to come in and really value your home properly. And, Zillow you can go to and get some round numbers, but, Zillow to us in the mortgage appraisal and real estate industry is really like kryptonite to Superman. It's really just
the appraisal we had done for the refi came in, let's just say 25,000, roughly 25,000 less than what Zillow said.
Harvey, did you have that? His appraisal came in low.
David, I love your call, and thanks for calling in. I'm going to let Becky Ellie follow up. Becky, one of the things that we know in the industry is when someone's refinancing their home, it's a bit different if they go to sell it. You get buyers in there. There's bidding wars. You got the agents that really know how to show the houses. Maybe they've dressed up the house. They're definitely screening it. Becky, give me some of that.
Well, the bottom line from the caller is that appraisals are subjective, right? One appraisal is going to come out, one appraiser is going to go out there and say, okay, I'm going to give you X, Y, Z. There's a format that they use, but you're not going to get that same view of someone's property because ultimately that is someone's opinion, even though appraisers have a certain format that they are reviewing. So a refinance, yes, it is different from a purchase because you could find someone that's, he was saying, well, can I demand $20,000 over asking. Okay, if you find that buyer that is totally in love with that house and is willing to do something like that, you absolutely could do something like that.
Definitely looking for that. Hey, we're coming up on our first break today. Definitely give us a phone call, 248-539-9797. It's mortgages and real estate all the way till 10 o'clock. Then sports. Keep it here on 97.1 The Ticket. We'll be right back. Alrighty, welcome back to the show, 917. It's the Hardcore Mortgage Real Estate Business Show, brought to you by Capital Mortgage Funding, always powered by Fairway Independent Mortgage Corporation, NMLS 2289, Equal Housing Lender. I'm Harvey Freed, Harry Gland, special guest Renee Lassiat Show, and of course we got Becky Ailey, John Kolb, the top producers, loan originators across the United States. Of course, Renee, you're with Keller Williams Luxury Domain in downtown Birmingham. We were talking before the show, gosh, we really love these walkable cities, and wow, does Birmingham have so much to offer. Maybe we didn't recognize it 30 years ago as much as we do today. I'm driving home, taking Maple, everyone's walking a dog, and I'm just continuously fall in love with that area.
It's no question that walkability has become and has been always, something that's very exciting to have a downtown area, whether it be Royal Oak, Birmingham, Ann Arbor, Northville. These areas will continue, I think, to draw an urban lifestyle that you don't have everywhere. But what really has to be focused on in terms of values are not just the walkability, but what other what else do they have in terms of value? Birmingham, Bloomfield. Certainly have maintained value, not just because of the walkability of the community, but the schools, and not just public, but also private. The selection and opportunity to have at your, within a couple miles of your home, some of the best schools available, and then also the central location. So giving people the flexibility of no matter where you work, you can catch an expressway or an artery to getting to east, west, north, south pretty easily. That combination, that's why they say location, location, location in real estate, and there is absolutely truth to that, and we see it every year when we look at the numbers.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Harry.
Okay, so I want to ask Renee. So Renee, we have, and all our realtor partners, they have a plethora of buyers out there. So I guess from my standpoint, I'm looking at it, and everybody asks us, what's the market going to be like going forward? December, then into first and second quarter, all of 2022. So if you're working with X amount of buyers, all our realtor partners, everybody that you're working with, you have so many buyers, that has to bode very well for the future, the immediate future, next year, 2022. For a buyer's market or a seller's market, correct?
We are not anticipating a change, Harry, not at all. In fact, it's a simple supply and demand, as you're saying. We have a certain amount, we have limited supply. We don't anticipate additional supply from the construction. A lot of times in certain areas, you anticipate more inventory coming on market because of construction. Well, if you look at supply chains and labor shortages, we know that that's going to, again, temper the available opportunity to have new construction come on. So, and again, what we were talking about before the break, we do have a lot of people who are concerned about selling, who have or potentially refinance, or like our caller, maybe done renovations as opposed to selling. So there is going to be a shift in inventory, which is going to just put more pressure on the demand and increase the values to some degree. I think the only potential pitfall we may see, and we know that this is not going to be the case, at least nothing's indicating it will be, is if interest rates change. But we also have the increase at 625 for a conventional loan, which has helped that. So 2022 and all of the the consumer reports and economist reports are indicating we're going to see the same type of real estate market.
We talked about affordability, maybe for the first-time home buyer, but I don't see it being a problem. Boy, it seems like everyone invested in this cryptocurrency, and there's all these new millionaires, or for whatever reason out there's all this new wealth. And of course, if you've already owned a house, you have built-in wealth. Home ownership gives families an opportunity to really build wealth, whether you're a first-time home buyer. But let's just comment a little bit hard getting into the entry-level market. They don't have $150,000, $200,000 houses anymore.
It is very hard, and the values increasing with the rate that they are. 17%, 14% annually over the last 5 to 7 years. We have seen, 12 years of increases of value. So it's not. There's two parts of the ability, and that is your ability to make the payment, but also, as you're saying, the down payment, Harvey. And that is something that is becoming, with the increased prices, that's a big number. And a lot of people, it's hard to come up with that.
Becky Ailey, home prices rose nearly 30%. His income only crept up at 11%. But we're getting some families in. Again, there's lots of programs out there. You can get into the 3% downs. Becky, FHA, give me a little bit of that.
Well, the bottom line is that the programs that are coming out are progressive. Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, FHA, they are all now designing themselves around strong underwriting guidelines. But the bottom line is that they're trying to get everyone into a home, right? Everything is structured around that. With the increase of conventional loan limits, like Renee just mentioned, 625, to allow more people to get into conventional financing. The 3% downs, you don't have to be a first-time home buyer with a 3% down as long as you qualify under the income, criteria. So it's all about having that conversation. If home ownership is in your goal, in your wheelhouse for 2021, we can still make that happen. We'll get you hooked up with Renee. If you're trying to get into a house in 2022, you start with a conversation because it's all the same, but it's different. My situation is different than John's and Harvey's and Renee's, right? It's just like every buyer is different. So the point is that if you're conventional FHA, you start with that conversation. You get hooked up with a professional real estate agent like Renee, and you have that conversation, and she's going to evaluate your home if you have to sell. Like that caller, he's put a lot of, time and money into his house. Is he going to get that money back? Well, her job is to help find that buyer that's going to love that house as much as he does and possibly give him that dollar for dollar return if it's possible. But, the refinances, the purchases, it all really is structured around helping people get into these homes when they can.
248-539-9797. We give you up till 10 o'clock. Mortgages, real estate. Then we got Pat Caputo coming up with sports. Michigan football at 11. There's a big game today. Yes, we did make a little dazzle there. We ran the wrong update for you. Do not bet the Michigan-Indiana game. It'll be Michigan-Penn State. We're all good. We got it all figured out here. 50 years ago, John Kolb, you bought the house in 1965. Mr. Glanz put a podcast out. Rates were at 4.25 then. Boy, they're a lot lower now. But wow, home prices have appreciated 115%. John Kolb, you're up in that cottage up north. Boy, people are buying those things up nonstop.
Yeah, at the break, Becky and I were just talking about it, how there's just nothing for sale up here on the market and on the water. And that's, that's a good thing and a bad thing, right? You've got a ton of people wanting to explore the options of what Michigan has to offer, all the different water and lakes that are around, and just not anything to really buy. And, with being able to work remote, some schooling from remote, and, you can spend extended periods of time up here and not miss a beat where like you would have in the past. And it's really nice to see. I mean, we're running into the fall where it's fall cleanup, and like I said, it was snowing yesterday, snowing a little today, and so the times are coming right now.
John, you can't keep that snow away just a little bit more. I know people love it, but I'm just not ready for it. But, they're not making any more water. There's a saying, they're not making any more water, right, Renee? So the lakefront property up north, all around the state of Michigan, we love our Four Seasons here. You're selling a lot of lakefront property around here. Those prices are skyrocketing, correct?
Absolutely. It's back to what is the limited commodity, and lakes are certainly one of them. I think also what we saw as a shift from COVID was we now can work and extend where we work. A lot of times, of course, up until now, people went to a specific job site or you're specifically at an office. The flexibility that we have seen as the outcome that is here to stay of allowing people to work from home at least part-time or not have to have the demands on travel as much is I think also part of the reason that people are looking for second homes, because they can do that not just as a vacation space but also as a daily place to live, and people are really extending that opportunity if they can afford it. So we're seeing more pressure on some of those vacation site locations to become regular properties for people to live in.
Well, I do my share of HGTV listening here. We got our own millionaire lister right here, RLA, of course, Realty, Renee Acho having her in the studio here. Keller Williams Luxury Domain. Millionaire listings, do you have special training for our elite buyers? Or, I've always recognized that some of my more expensive buyers are a little classier, really down to earth, and I don't really feel there's a difference. Whether it's a first-time home buyer, I think we're all people here. But if I can hire someone like you, what a professional, add all this light onto buying and selling in today's marketplace.
You really, no matter what price point you're looking in, the service should be the same. Now, there are certainly the knowledge you are looking for when you're dealing with a first-time home buyer. There's different needs and wants from that person. They're unfamiliar with some of the systems and the process, and maybe less familiar with how to work through from the point of purchase to the point of closing. And that's really important, that you are an agent who understands their concerns, their needs and wants. And then you move through that, and it shouldn't change. The service should be the same at any level.
Well, you can't teach people class and etiquette. You're one of the best out there. When we come back, we want to hear from you. 248-539-9797. Keep it here. Good morning. Welcome back to the show. It's 9:32, the Hardcore Mortgage Real Estate Business Show, brought to you by Capital Mortgage Funding. You can reach us at 1-800-LOW-RATE, the best mortgage banker right here in your own backyard. We do all 50 states, so if you need a mortgage of any type, whether it be conventional, jumbo, FHA, USDA, if I left one off, how about VA for our veterans even this past Thursday? Give us a call at Capital Mortgage, 1-800-LOW-RATE. We do take your calls here in the studio, 248-539-9797. Awesome to have Renee here. Renee Lasiacho, of course, from Keller Williams Luxury Domain. She calls it RLA Realty. There's nothing like having experienced agents in there. And off the air, we were talking a little bit about that the inspection, boy, it comes up that it's not a deal breaker. You have to have the knowledge. You need that agent to really understand how to navigate it.
So, Renee, I'll tell you this. Before you get into it, I want to ask you this question. Do you ever recommend not getting an inspection? Ever? Never. Did you hear that, everybody out there? Another one on the show with the right answer. Never.
No.
Why?
Well, for a number of reasons. No, if you're a seller, and I tell my sellers this, you want to have an inspection. There are liability things. There's information that you don't want to be held accountable for if it wasn't properly handled. It doesn't hurt you. If you have something you're covering up that you don't want someone to see, that's a bigger issue. You signed a disclosure. You can be held accountable for a disclosure, and you want people to feel good and comfortable about what they're buying. So absolutely you do an inspection. As a buyer, it is your opportunity to make sure you understand the cost of that home. We don't buy a house at the purchase price. We buy a house at a price that is then going to be the cost throughout your lifetime of living in that home. So if you purchase something and anticipate the furnace is working, the roof is in good shape, no one typically crawls up into their own attic to look at it or check the insulation. This is the opportunity to do that. If as a consumer, as a seller, if you're concerned, have a pre-inspection and to look into what could potentially be the pitfalls of that sale and spend the money fixing it. Because I will tell you, and I say this all the time to my clients, you're going to pay for it one way or another.
Yeah.
If a seller has an issue with their home, you either have to price it to reflect that or you have to anticipate that possibly being negotiated, even in this market. These are high-cost items, and they do come up.
I'll go to John Kolb. John, we're talking about functionality of the home, of course, understanding the efficiencies of the home. You can always replace the furnace, but you need to know that as you're moving forward with your inspection.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, Renee's got all the answers to the Harry test because she's answering everything the way Harry likes it, which is awesome. Perfect. We've been talking about sellers getting a pre-inspection before putting the house on the market, just so you know what might pop up, what might not, that kind of stuff. You know, if somebody's inspection comes up and says something and your inspection said the other, you can challenge it a little bit because now you have some sort of backing to it. So, yeah, home inspection, never, ever, ever, never. So we can't say that enough. And I know that there are ways that people are doing inspections where they're doing it's a pass-fail versus coming back to renegotiate. And I do like that option to try to as a way of getting into the home and getting your offer accepted, knowing that the seller knowing that the price is not going to be renegotiated and that it's just a pass-fail on the quality of the home. And there's a lot of good options. We have so many good realtor partners, including Renee, that are so knowledgeable about how to get this done, how to get your offer accepted. And, you just got to listen to what they say because they are the experts.
One of the other things you can offer as a seller, if you are concerned, in two parts, John, you're absolutely right, but having a pre-inspection also tells the purchaser that this is someone who's serious about their home, they fixed the anticipated issues, and that's important to do, for a number of reasons. You can also offer a home warranty if you're concerned. It's an inexpensive way to give some peace of mind to both buyer and seller.
Let's go to Carl, our caller in there in Southfield. Carl, good morning. Thanks for calling in. You got a question about purchase agreements. Go ahead, sir.
Yeah. So it's been, 20 plus years since I purchased a home. And, I ran into an issue buying a home. I actually used Capital Mortgage for my financing. And the buyer basically tried to get out of the purchase agreement. And I'm going to be buying another lake house soon in the next 6 months. And I just kind of want to make sure that what is it that I need to look out for when it comes to purchase agreements? Because I believe my agent, I actually live in Indiana. My agent wasn't really that strong, but because of John Kolb, I didn't lose my home that I was purchasing.
There you go.
Now, and he did a lot for me, and his experience, to be honest with you, saved me this house that I'm living in now. But going further, when I buy my lake house in the spring, I kind of want to know what I need to look out for in purchase agreements, to make sure that as a buyer or seller, what should I look out for so that way I'm not, someone's not trying to get over on me. And John could tell you the story, but, it was really difficult, but he helped.
It's important to have a great team.
Oh, go ahead, John.
happening,
John, we'll go.
Carl?
John, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, Carl had a unique situation. Such a good guy moving from Michigan to Indiana, and we just had an agent that they were always accepting backup offers, which happens. And it was one of those things where the backup offer, the guy thought that the backup offer meant that he could just squash Carl's deal and move forward with the backup offer, but that wasn't the case. Carl was on time with everything he was supposed to be doing. We met the purchase agreement date. We met the appraisal date. We met the closing. We were ahead of the closing date. So we just had to get other professionals involved to make sure that the agent, the listing agent, and the seller understood that, you can't just walk away from an agreement like that. There are ramifications that can happen. And we got our knowledgeable team together, put them all in contact with one another, and in the end, Carl got the house because he did everything he was supposed to.
Renee, these purchase agreements look similar to the ones that when I got involved in the industry 30 years ago. There's some changes to them, not a lot of changes, but you can use a standard purchase agreement. You can have an attorney review it, and if you want to add an addendum to that to tighten things up, Renee, I sort of suggest that, especially on the bigger and badder homes because there's not a lot of inventory.
You should absolutely. These are binding agreements. Of course, people can challenge that. You have to have an agreement, but it is binding. And backup offers, which are currently very, very popular because of the type of market we're in, are just that, a backup offer. Should you fail in following your contractual obligation as a buyer or a seller, that is when it opens up the opportunity for somebody to come in. But you do have a binding agreement, and there are a lot of concerns because there are changes, things like appraisal waivers, things like escalation clauses, where if you're bidding over, that is something that, again, you should always, no matter what price point you're buying in, having an expert team like John, an agent, your whole team that is going to help navigate this, your inspector, should be assisting you throughout the process so that you understand it. But the escalation clauses are a big consumer hot button because if you have multiple offers, it then caps where you're at. You're not guessing. You're saying, I'll go up over 25,000 or whatever the number is. But you should have an agent who understands the opportunities that you have and make sure that whether you're buying a $100,000 house or a $10 million house, you have somebody on your side to help you understand that it is binding.
We're going to take your calls, 248-539-9797. Becky Yaley, married couples continue to decline in the home buying market. Used to be about 80%. Now it's somewhere down about 60%. When it's getting married soon, they might want to buy a house also.
Yeah, this girl's getting married soon. Hey.
Yeah, hey, congratulations. I'll be there.
Thank you. I think part of that is because people are buying houses a little bit ahead of, getting married. Because your first-time home buyer, I feel like the average age of your first-time home buyer is in their 30s now. There are still people buying their first homes when they're in their 20s. Like I bought my first house when I was 24, but I feel like the norm now is people are doing things a little bit later in life, and there's nothing wrong with that. So sometimes you have people that are getting married and they have their own individual houses that they have to sell, and then, they're going to combine, in one place, and there's nothing wrong with that. And even to what Renee was saying about the contracts, it doesn't matter if it's a $100,000 or a $400,000 house, you got to read your contract.
All righty, 248-539-9797. It's the Hardcore Mortgage Real Estate Business Show. Keep it here. We're going to be right back. Alrighty, we are back here, 9:45, and it's getting a little chilly outside. We've got Michigan football, and if you're a Michigan State fan, we got that too for you. And, of course, Red Wings here a little bit later in the day. So enjoy your Saturday. We got Renee Lasiacho, and it's so great to have qualified real estate agents. And we're talking a little bit more here outside of the break. There's a huge difference between who you're hiring as a listing agent or a selling agent. Definitely reach out to Renee. You can check her out online, Google her, and of course she's over at that Keller Williams Luxury Domain office in Birmingham. So find the best agents out there. There's a huge difference. Renee, at the break we start talking about other things you can do. Now, when you buy a car, there's this like type of car report. I'm not going to drop that name. You can find out all about what happened to that vehicle. You're telling me there's one in the insurance world. Please tell us more.
Absolutely. And this is why you always want to make sure that you have an expert in your field. And there's a difference between being an agent and really being a consultant. And that's what a good agent, a good mortgage lender is going to make sure that they are really making sure that you are safe on your purchase. When you do an inspection, oftentimes you just have one general inspector. I always suggest to people, do a sewer scope. Have the septic if there's a septic, have a radon test. You're going to spend more money up front, but that money is going to save you thousands in the future if you find out yourself afterwards that there is an issue with that home. One other thing that Harry and I were talking about, if you have a home, when you look at the seller's disclosures, it is the responsibility, and again, legal document, that as a seller, I always tell my sellers, they'll say, oh, well, we had this problem, but we fixed it, so it's gone. We're not going to answer that with a yes. We're saying no because it's not a current problem. Wrong answer, ladies and gentlemen. Full disclosure always. And if you fixed it, that is much more telling to the purchaser than it would be if you were covering it up. And there's a way to find out about it. We were just talking during the break. You can have an insurance company run what's called a clue report. Sort of like the car type of report that we were talking about. Yep. And you have a clue report that's run by an insurance company that will tell the buyer if there has been any claims against that home. So now, Mr. Seller or Mrs. Seller, if you put that there's no water in your basement, but you did in fact have your sump pump back up and you had an insurance claim based on it, even if you didn't take the money, but there was an inquiry about it, it should show up on the clue report. So do not cover things up. Always disclose.
Real life situation. I had a borrower closed on a transaction. The next day, all of a sudden, there's water leaking in or out. Now, you know as well as I do, it couldn't have been the first time. I'm not asking you to be an attorney. We don't play attorneys on the radio. Thought process on not disclosing these kind of things.
You have to disclose. There's nothing good that's going to come out of not disclosing something. Number one, if it's found or any evidence of water or moisture or whatever else comes out of that inspection, your buyer is really looking at this like, what else did they not tell me? What else is not disclosed? And it starts to raise red flags. The last thing you want to do is raise a red flag about your home. That's why we talked about the pre-inspections, having receipts for the items that you can fix ahead of time, because really you want to make sure that you're providing the purchaser and yourself with the best opportunity to get that home sold.
It's all about disclosure as a seller.
Let's talk about some fun stuff here before we have to leave the show. 248-539-9797. Amongst the desire to sell your house is to move closer to family and get those great schools. Also a bigger space. You know, we saw obviously with the COVID thing and the pandemic, families wanted more space, outdoor living. Are you seeing that? As they say, most of the sellers that traded up, 46% of them were looking for a larger home.
And, it's interesting because it's not just larger home, Harvey. It's different home. People, what we found during COVID again, the need to have workspaces, school spaces, private spaces, the open concept, which was a huge thing for so long, is shifted a little bit now. People want a few more private spaces. They also like the idea of having all of their activities available to them. Whether or not you go back to the gym, it's been one of the biggest things that people have put in their own home is their home gym, because you have the comfort. But, what we've learned is that having the options at a relatively reasonable price have been great. You don't want to overextend in what you build in your own home. But yes, the flexibility, dining rooms came back.
Yeah.
People were entertaining at home more. Fire pits, pools. You can't even get anyone to build a pool right now. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, that's
so
for sure.
Recreation spaces for sure.
35% of the sellers receive more than asking price. Boy, Renee, if your house is on the market for more than 5 days, they're probably knocking your door down, yelling at you. What's going on here?
Be careful. That's now become the mindset. Oh, my house is worth $1 million. I'm going to put it for 1.5 because any price gets picked up. Price still drives the demand. Okay, so you're not going to just, and people are saying, well, I'm going to try it. I'm going to try it. You can try it. That's fine. But if you're priced right, even in this market, we're at a 17% increase even this year. Take advantage of that price. Don't go to 25% or 30%. You're going to stay on the market. And now the mindset is, if you've been on the market for more than 15 minutes, there must be something wrong with the house. So you become stale very fast.
I want to throw in there real quickly. We talked about inspections, getting these things done, the radon. So that's why it's important to have that team, because you're a professional real estate agent you're hiring. They have those phone numbers ready to go. And again, Renee, we're seeing still 30-day purchase agreements. Where's everyone going in such a hurry? They're still giving 60 days. We have to get you into the house. It's 60 days. Now, whatever happens outside of the contract, I don't know about. But generally speaking, Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac guidelines, you're going to be occupying this house in the next 60 days. You got to have that professional team to get you in there.
You do. And you have to also, if you're going to do rent back, there are very, very important things that you have to set in place. All of the maintenance, who's handling that, the utilities. If you do a rent back, it should be contractually drawn up.
John Kolb, running up here on the end of the show. What do you got?
Hey, I just appreciate Renee coming out onto the show with us, bringing a whole bunch of knowledge. That clues report, I think that's a big topic. We're seeing that more and more. Where insurance companies are actually denying borrowers because of the home that they're buying. I've come across that twice in the last 3-4 months. So it's one of those things that, you got to listen to the show. You got to listen to your realtor partners, because they are the experts in the area, and make sure you listen to what they tell you, because you're going to get the best transaction, the best information when you are dealing with somebody who knows what they're doing.
Becky Alley, cash out refinances and refinancing your home. These rates are still all-time lows. Becky, if you can wrap us up with that end of it. Of course, we got a little mortgage show here.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, and what Renee was saying is, you're right. The pandemic has changed the wants and needs of people's of what they're looking for. And I was a gym person. I had to totally transform myself to be working out at home, and now I'm okay with it. I'm used to it. And you're right. The wants and needs have changed for buyers and sellers, and the wants and needs have also changed for people that decided to do a cash-out refinance to make their home what they want, because they didn't want to get into this whole buyer frenzy and things like that. So if it does make sense, rates are still low, give us a call, cash-out refinance, make that house what you want. And if you're on the list for a pool, you might make sense to pull that money out and actually use those funds for your pool, so that way you can leave your money in the bank and let it do its thing.
We still run into a lot of families that give us a call, and boy, they got that $20,000, $40,000, $60,000 in credit card debt. I just fixed up a guy, and you talk about saving money, $800 to $1,200 a month savings, and I think a stamp costs 45 or 48 cents nowadays. He doesn't have to make those payments. He's dropping his years down to a 15-year mortgage. I drove by the house the other day. He needs to paint the whole house, too, and do some landscaping. So what a great time to take advantage of these still extremely low interest rates, all-time low interest rates. Call Capital Mortgage Funding at 1-800-LOW-RATE. Find out more about a cash-out refinance. Use the equity in your house to put that money back in, so when you do hire the agent, maybe you will get the top dollar. And we've seen quite a few families where if your house doesn't show well, and Renee, we see that, it probably needs some dressing up, or you need a more honest listing agent to tell you, hey, here's where you got to put the money.
Always start with staging. It's the number one advantage you have. Consumers are purchasing homes on Zillow and Realtor.com. Those photographs are going to have to reflect the actual home to some degree. We know we're really good at photography and real estate, but you should have the home. Always start with staging. And we do that, and my group, we actually make sure every home is ready to have its best foot forward. You don't get a second chance to make a first impression.
Yeah, I like that saying. There you go. And tell us about your team and how many people you have on your team and what you're working on right now.
So we have a growing team. There are 8 of us. I have associate agents, transaction coordinators. We have what I consider to be the best team in the business, of course. And they are absolutely takes a village, and we are a strong village. We're going to round out at about $100 million in transactions this year. The company is going to hit $1 billion in the short 4.5 years that we've been in business. So proud to be a part of it.
You are outstanding. Hey, I got to drop this real quick. Ryder Washington, this fun-loving kindergartner, he loves to dance, practiced taekwondo. He got diagnosed with something bad. They call it MDS. Check this out. BeTheMatch.org. Check it out, please. Be the match and save somebody's life. I'm going to go get swabbed. Check it out. My friend Kimberly Hurd Washington. Kimberly's awesome. She reached out to me and said, Harvey, give me a drop. Let's help save some lives here as we go into the holiday season. Renee, you are awesome. Renee Lacia-Acho, we're going to have you back for sure. And again, reach out to her at Keller Williams, the Luxury Domain office. Harry, any last words?
Love you guys. Appreciate it. I respect everybody and treat everybody nice, everybody.
Okay, racingforryder.com. Check it out, please. Ryder needs a match here. Let's fix him up and all the other kids out there that we can help save a life. BeTheMatch.org. Check it out. Hey, that's it for Capital Mortgage Funding's Hardcore Mortgage Show. You can catch us at 1-800-LOW-RATE. I see Pat Caputo. He's coming up with sports, social commentary. Keep it here.